Hello, and good evening. Good evening. My name is Mikey. I am from Digital Storytellers. I love telling short acknowledgement stories instead of using script. So if I may, welcome to Gadigal Country. Being here on country means a lot to me as a new Australian. Hearing a Canadian accent, next time you're here, go out to the back of the building and check out this giant mural we have. The day we were moving in and starting Impact Story Lab was the day that mural was being painted. They had a giant scissor lift, and it's called You Are on Gadigal Country. And we got to know the artists, Jason and Dennis and Lucy. We ended up making a great connection and doing a video for them as well. It's just a really special part about being here in this building. Of course, acknowledging all of you and your ancestors and all of the bloodlines you have that bring you here today. I think it's just that last thing of getting connected to that before we begin as acknowledgement. I'm sure that my Aboriginal and First Nations colleagues would ask us to think of things in that way before we begin. Welcome to Space Matters. This is the second in the three that we're doing. Tonight's session is going to explore how green design thinking can increase well-being in our urban lives. Who wants more of that in your life? From community gardens to large parks, green walls, urban tree canopies, rain gardens, and re-greening of waterways. Tonight is about celebrating these natural spaces in our cities that help connect us to our environment, to each other, to nature. I don't know about you all, but I definitely need more of that in my life tonight. I'm really looking forward to some of the stories we're going to hear tonight from Belinda, Rousseau, and Louise tonight. Thank you, Louise. Yes. I'm not going to take too much time. My job is really just to introduce and set the frame and make you all excited for what we're going to hear. But we have a special thing we're going to do first before we hear the stories. And yes, Jeremy and I, well, Jeremy more. I should really pay credit where credit's due. Jeremy's got this thing he does in every place he goes to. Here, if you see all the plants in this place.
I found this in my garden today.
Oh yeah!
Exactly.
The pumpkin vine was so big.
Yes.
I went to clear it away and I was like, put that on the compost. There's a pumpkin.
Amazing.
That's right.
That's
Great.
glorious.
So this is my green wall, which is made from pots. These are recycled plastic pots made in Melbourne. There is someone here from ex-Jungle Fire. I used to work with Vertical with a cape. So these little guys clip on and then you run a drip line along. I just water these guys with my hand. You don't usually do a succulent vertical garden because they grow really, really slowly. So you want something that doesn't grow so slow and comes like full of greenness, and then you've got south-facing walls and indoor walls and all kinds of complexity. I have a huge range of succulents here, all different kinds of interesting ones, and I just foraged these basically from different places, people's places I went to. I don't think I bought any of them, and so I was at Bunnings today getting the potting mix, and one little jade that's sort of about this size in a pot was going for about $13. We do have thousands of dollars worth of succulents. And so basically this is one little guy that I, like a cluster that I have been growing for quite some time. So I'm just gonna sort of cut a few of these guys off just so that way I've got some tops ready to go. There's a little guy in there, I'm just gonna pinch him out. And basically any little thing will grow, even just a leaf will grow. And I'm gonna pop him out and he's gonna go in here with some potting mix. I didn't know you were going to be doing a potting up experience. I am no coster. So from here, this little cuttings that I've got from everywhere, and then so you guys can actually do this and take one home. Take a couple home. Make yourself a little cluster of succulents. That little vertical pot has turned into a really nice pot. So this is jute, by the way, jute and cotton. This is hemp.
Yay!
So we were talking about hemp earlier, and inside the hemp bag I have some mulch. Sprinkle that around, and I don't know, what price tag should we put on that guy? Sell it for $55.
Yay!
And it's just about sort of getting in there and doing it. So the next one is, this is for you guys. There's a heaps of little pots. So just and then pick your favorite or pick a few and just pop them in there like that. This guy will fall over the side once he's grown. And we put this guy in the middle. You can see there's already some roots on that one. And we already have a little mixed succulent, and you just put that on the side. In a couple of years it will have grown, and you put it into one of these, and slowly but surely you get a succulent collection as big as that.
Amazing. Gorgeous.
There we go. Everyone, please make yourself a little succulent nest to take home with you from all these weird and wonderful succulents. Thank you.
So as our icebreaker activity, we want to invite you guys up to do this. Get your hands in the dirt, have a bit of a yarn with somebody that you haven't met yet, kind of take that chance to connect while you build your succulent up.
It was like, we're using song lines of birds, right, that are forgetting their song. They're so disconnected from one another. Why don't we use
come on, folks,
existing
get in touch with your
infrastructure and
nature.
train
Let's do
lines?
this.
Yeah, nice. In a bit.
I hope you enjoyed that little connecting experience that we wanted to do tonight.
Lost the audience.
Tonight we have three wonderful
Belinda.
talks
I'm gonna be talking
planned
to
for you.
Louise.
To kick us off, we're going to hear from Belinda Bean
Yeah.
from Wilder Impact. Belinda Bean is the founder of Wilder Impact. Everybody welcome Belinda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will let Belinda introduce her organization herself.
Well, thank you, Mikey, for the introduction, and Jeremy for hosting us and organising all this. It is really wonderful to be here. I would also like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, on whose land in which we stand, whose customs and traditions have cared for this place for tens of thousands of years, and that's just what we know on record. Admittedly, it looks extremely different today to how it would have been before we put in buildings and roads and bridges and pathways, and it looks very different today. And a lot of that is what I'm liking to term now grey infrastructure, right? The grey infrastructure, the buildings and roads and all of that. So I'll talk a little bit about all the other colours of infrastructure tonight, so the green infrastructure and the blue infrastructure. So I grew up myself in Ku-ring-gai, just north of here, and then moved even further north on Gadigal Country now, where I'm raising my two young boys, live with my husband and my mother-in-law on a patch of land, a small suburban block, but I love it. It was an old ancient spring there, so abundance of water. I've got a little food forest rocking, which feels amazing to just be able to plant stuff in the ground after many years of renting. And I've got a big vision, so I want to do a big biodiverse, native front lawn and make habitat for all the critters and creatures. So that's the vision, but one step at a time, as my husband keeps reminding me. I think we have a lot to learn, and I have a lot to learn myself in terms of Indigenous practices and ways of being with each other, ways of being with country. So this is a tidal fish trap. So it was letting the design of this system do all the work. So fish would end up in the trap and the tide goes out. So this is just one of many examples. I'm also completely fascinated by the middens when they would leave clusters of shellfish and bones and things that ended up stabilising coastal lines. Oh, if Colin's nodding, I'm saying something right. This guy has studied it. So, yeah, look, I think we have a lot to learn, and it is an emerging field of what we call nature-based solutions. I don't think the Indigenous necessarily had a terminology for it. It was just their ways of being, and that's something where I think we need to get back to. So nature-based solutions, essentially using nature in the same way the fish traps were, as a design system to solve certain problems or to make the area inhabitable. Nature-based solutions is a huge field. If you're interested, please chat to Colin. He's literally written a PhD on it around the world in terms of, he's looked at what works, right? What are the actual solutions that are proven around the world? But a subset of these are urban green infrastructure solutions. And I would say these are the subset of nature-based solutions that we can apply in areas like Gadigal and Eora Nation, which is really built up. So what are the nature-based solutions we can do here? And this is essentially looking at how do we make networks and connections, because we know biodiversity thrives on connectivity to other ecosystems. So whilst you might not think your little flower pot on the windowsill is doing a lot, but for that butterfly, it might be the way to connect them.
Succulent pot.
Your succulent pot, that's right. Don't forget to do it and take one home. There is getting a bit of a glossary of terms around these now. The industry is getting a little bit more sophisticated. I was really lucky to be at the helm of Greener Spaces, Better Places for 5 years. So this is a program, a genuine collective impact program, which was trying to get more and better green spaces in our urban areas. So I had the wonderful job of speaking with stakeholders across the whole ecosystem, from landscape architects to, urban greeners looking after urban agriculture, and researchers, academics, designers, planners. And my whole job was to report back to my client, which was Hort Innovation, and talk about what is actually going on in this whole ecosystem, right? And it turns out there's a lot of problems having a city in a forest or a forest in a city. And there's a number of things we can do. So I would sort of map the whole system and we'd look at strategic interventions. So whether that was doing canopy mapping of urban areas to look at who was going forward and who was going back, whether that was tools or resources. I kind of found myself doing a lot of urban greening. My background was in sustainability and marketing, but doing this role really got me into urban greening, and I got the nature bug. Through that work, I came across an organisation called Agent. Back on Greener Spaces. So I know we've got to collect like a whole suite of people here. So if you're interested in greening your home, jump on the Greener Spaces, Better Places, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and their website. There's a whole section for greening my home, full of inspiration, tips, ideas, tricks. It is really, really cool, and there is absolutely years and years of content in there. If you're more in the professional urban greening side of things, we have on the website, there's Green My Suburb. So that is more tools for practitioners or people that want to advocate for more green spaces and get their communities green. We've also got the LinkedIn page, which is more for professional urban greeners, people that touch on it in their careers, be them sustainability strategists or working in council as a planner or an engineer. And we also have the newsletter and the Australasian Green Infrastructure Network. So this is a charity. I came across them doing the Greener Spaces, Better Places work, and I remember one day getting an email, and it was from their deputy president, and it was just, how about you come work for Agent? And so I've been doing that ever since, completely voluntary. So this is a charity. The whole mission is to regenerate cities and to bring nature back into cities through championing green infrastructure best practices and also growing the sector connections. So we have a massive strategy, a very ambitious strategy on how to do that. We've got a website that's got resources, lots of case studies. So we've got the project library has recently been launched. Yeah, it's just a wonderful organisation. So if you're involved professionally and that stuff interests you, please do become a member of Agent or check out some of the comms that we have going around, because they're great people. I wouldn't still volunteer there 2 years later if it wasn't good work. And then I started my business, so just for something else to do. So Wilder Impact, so a consultancy that's really looking at doing, because I genuinely want organisations and communities to have impact for nature. So anything around nature positive strategies, comms, campaigning, behaviour change, this is my whole bag. So I thought, let's just go for it and set that one up. So what is Urban Greening Solutions? I know some of you in this room know exactly what they are, but it is the full suite of natural as well as engineered solutions for our urban spaces. So you might recognise some of these, including green roofs, green walls, green facades. Parks, green open spaces, they're really needed, especially, with parks, there's a lot of move towards synthetic turf. So that's an issue, taking away nature. That's part of it. Sustainable drainage, rain gardens. And then that verges on the blue infrastructure, which is the water-based ones, which any area is only as green as it gets water, as much water as it gets. Swales, drink. I said it. Swales, so looking at anything that stops... my mum has a theory, I say it in every speech that I do, and I do now. Anything that will stop water and spread it out and soak it into the landscape, it will be great for greening, because we've really designed our urban spaces to run the water off as quickly as possible and take it away from the site. So this leaves us with really dehydrated landscapes, and dehydrated landscapes are flammable. So the more spongy we have it, has anyone heard of this concept of like a sponge city? Yeah, lots of nods, that's great. So a sponge has this amazing effect of both taking in all the water and also not burning. So these landscapes are essentially taking in the water and then not like flooding as well, because they're absorbent. They're absorbing it, but they're not making it really floody. So anything that will soak into the landscape helps that, including permeable pavement. So that would be part of a green infrastructure solution. So that'll be anything that's porous. It might look like tiles that have a corner cut out of them to let the water in, or it might be like a honeycomb structure to enable that water, or products like porous lane that are actually, the water actually filters through. So these are the 7 documented, acknowledged benefits of urban greening. So it genuinely solves problems. So we're at that level of nuance now where you can kind of pick your problem, because not every community has every problem in equal measure. So we can pick the problems and then we can stack them and make sure that we're designing the right implementations with the right kind of plans that do the trick. So for example, if air pollution is an issue, which it might be in the city, this is very urban here, things like waxy leaves or leaves that are quite, that hairy sort of texture, they actually take in more of those, those ppms. But some plants actually produce VOCs. So you're wanting to use more of one type and less of the other. A hedge. Any guesses on what percentage a hedge reduces air quality pollution by in its local area? Having a hedge in front of your house. How much do you think? 10%, 20%, 30%? Up to 63%. It's helping because they're taking it in and trapping those pollutants in it. So if we've got that and something like heat, when we've got heat, we want to make anything shady, right? Because we've got this big problem with urban heat island effect where everything is hard, it's warming up during the day and radiating that heat out at night. So anything that can shade that will help. Nature's original aircon, when we used to plant a tree and then 20 years later you had shade. Now we buy our properties and go in and just raise them all down, like without even seeing it through a season. And insulation, so that urban greening can also help with that insulative effect of homes, and transfer evaporation. So just having the plants there, they're doing their own breathing thing. They're actually moving the air around and circulating it. So through all those mechanisms, it's addressing heat. So you can kind of like pick your problem and look at the solutions. So 3 people walk into a bar: a sustainability strategist, that was me, an urban greening practitioner, and not any landscape architect, the landscape architect that was behind the greening legacy of the 2000 Olympic Games. So what did we do? Well, we started a whole movement to revolutionise and advance urban greening in Australia. We were together for a podcast. It was essentially to talk to growers about what we were doing, what urban greening means, what's the opportunity for growers and how they can get involved. We went for a cheeky little post-pod beer, a little pre-pod beer as well, but that's not the story. And we were talking like, how do we actually do this? It's such a cross-disciplinary field. How do we actually get all the players into one room to have a conversation? So we thought that would be like a round table. Let's get all of our contacts and networks together and let's make an urban green infrastructure roundtable. And that's what they did. So we got all of these associations together. It was all their presidents and or CEOs, so very high level. And I was lucky enough to chair this wonderful roundtable for a year and a half. And we got together and we said, what are the problems? So this was a lot of the peak bodies that are involved right from the growing all the way through to the maintenance and the implementation of green infrastructure and the planning and the management and the engineering and all of that. So we thought, what do we actually need? And we came together and figured out a position statement on what we need to advance urban greening in Australia. And I won't bore you with the details, it's online. But essentially we came up with these 6 key statements or these 6 key action areas. And we now have task force that are working towards each of those. So one example is we need a standard. There's no such thing as a green wall standard. That's never existed in Australia. So we put that pitch to Standards Australia. They went and did their research, they consulted industry and they came back and they said, you were right, we do need this. So that is approved, that's underway. We're developing Australia's first ever green roof standard. Then we'll go into green walls, then we'll go green facades, then we'll just keep going. We'll do all of the green infrastructure assets. So that's about enough from me. Lovely to be here, thanks for having me.
Belinda, that was amazing. Thank you. I just totally nerded out with you, and I'm thinking of all my CSL buddies who would have loved to hear what you would have just shared. Center for Sustainability Leadership people. Everybody, please welcome Rousseau and Anai from Pocket City Farms. Yay! Woohoo! Okay. Rousseau, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Rousseau. I'm the chair of Pocket City Farms. Firstly, I'd just like to pay my respects and acknowledge that we're on Gadigal land and that we've obviously benefited a lot from the wisdom of their elders, past and present, and hopefully we can build this site out with that wisdom in mind. Pocket City Farms, we're established actually on an old bowling green. It's basically this half-acre green oasis within this urban environment. We grow fresh organic fruit and vegetables, which we distribute to the local community. So tonight I'd just like to tell you a bit about our story and focus on one area that we're really passionate about that is related to tonight's topic of urban nature. And that is that in the work that we do, we're really focused on having a positive and regenerative impact on three main areas. The first area is on the health of the land that we're on. The second is on the health of people. And the third is on the health of the community. So I'll just give some brief details on each of those areas and what we're doing. So the land. I think the common conception that we have in our modern world is that farming takes place out there somewhere in the countryside, that it's highly mechanized and it uses lots of toxic chemicals. So the relationship that's created between people and nature is an extractive one. At Pocket City Farms, we obviously don't really like that. And we're trying to promote the alternative, which is by using methods such as permaculture, we believe we're able to create a regenerative impact on the land. And as evidence of that, if you go out onto the farm and pick up a handful of soil, you'll be able to actually feel how alive and healthy it is. Compared to 10 years ago when this was a bowling green, you'll be able to notice all the different species of birds and insects that come and visit us. And if you have a scientific bent, which we do at Pocket City Farms, you'd be regularly testing the soil and you'd be noticing the dramatic improvement in the health of the soil compared to what it was 10 years ago. So the regenerative aspect for us is just so important. And it can actually happen in urban spaces as well, as we've been demonstrating. And this is absolutely key for food security because our modern food systems are reliant on very long supply lines, which are easily disrupted during times of crisis, for example, COVID. So having food production in urban areas where the food demand is just so important to increase food security, and it's something that we're actively promoting. So the second area is on the health of people. I think it's quite common knowledge that eating fresh organic food is good for people's health. It contains more nutrition because we sell locally, and so we have very little requirements for storage and transportation. That's where a lot of nutrients get leached off. Our fruit and vegetables aren't covered in toxic chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. And frankly, it just tastes a lot better because it's made here and the people who eat it are just over there. So that's pretty uncontroversial. I think one of the areas that is less in focus, and I think we'd be really interested in partnering with experts to actually explore this, is the mental health benefits of our little space here. Because anecdotally, what we find is that we have a lot of guests who are school kids, who are corporate employees, who spend most of their week indoors in front of screens. And when they come to the farm, we can see that they visibly relax. And as the stress starts to dissipate, there's a space that's created where they're able to reconnect with themselves, reconnect with others, and reconnect with nature. So this is an area that we're very interested in exploring, but I think it's quite clear that from our point of view, spaces like this have a very important physical and mental health benefit. The final area is on the health of communities. Modern life is really characterized by a high degree of social isolation and connection through addictive social media. At Pocket City Farms, we're trying to promote the alternative, which is to use this urban space as a way of gathering people physically together, where we can actually connect through participating in shared activities on the farm, having food together, on learning together. So we organise many events at the farm, volunteering events, events like this, where we get people together to really connect with each other. And I mean, it doesn't have to happen on the farm. It can happen here like we're doing right now. But these kind of events are really important in our view. Next month, actually, during Climate Action Week, we're having an event here where we're discussing what a planetary healthy diet looks like. And so we've got experts here who are talking about that. And then we're serving a lunch that's a planetary healthy lunch. You know, these are the kind of activities that just like today, having food, having shared learning, which bring people together. Our community also is created through other formal educational opportunities that we offer. So although we're a very small organisation on a small patch of land, we have ambitions to have a big impact, a loud enough voice to advocate for changes in the food system. And so education is a very big part of what we do. For example, last year we had around 1,700 school kids come on excursions to learn about sustainability. We had around 3,500 corporate employees who were doing team retreats with a sustainability component to it. So our conception is that these groups are also part of our community. Even though they don't live locally, we're only like 10 minutes away from the Sydney CBD where they work. We're also part of a very large school catchment area. So it's trying to broaden this idea about community and getting everyone engaged in trying to make the world a better place, trying to make it more sustainable, and in our case, using regenerative agriculture to promote that. The other idea is that our view of community is that people from all walks of life should be part of it, irrespective of their income. So there's this idea that's actually quite true that only rich people can afford fresh organic food. And so we're trying to change that. One of the ways we do that is that we've planted a food forest on the verge that surrounds our farm. This food forest includes mango trees, mulberry trees, various citrus trees with a vegetable undercover. And the local community are free to come and harvest any of these fruits and vegetables when they're ripe. And we get lots of kids actually climbing the mulberry trees when it's ripe, trying to get some of the fruit. It's just another way of bringing community together. The other thing that we do is that we've got a grant to donate half of our produce to the GAP program, which is run by St John's Church in Glebe. And so our fruit and vegetables are included in the care packs that are given to people in financial stress, people in need. And so that way, everyone is able to get access to the produce that we're making. And so in this way, you know, we're making our small contribution to food justice and food security for as many people in the community as possible. So I've just given you a very quick tour of the way that we are looking to have a regenerative and positive impact on the land, on people, and on the community. I'd encourage everyone to actually come and visit us, because the one thing about actually seeing the farm is, I mean, it's firstly a very beautiful piece of land, and secondly, you'll be able to see with your own eyes what I've been talking about and what we're trying to create. But because it's just raining outside so hard, and because we're here, there's another way of experiencing that, and that's through digital stories. Luckily enough, last year we were chosen to be a participant of the Pathways to Purpose program, which is sponsored by Digital Storytellers, who are our hosts today. And so a number of young up-and-coming filmmakers were tasked with making a short documentary about the Pocket City Farm story. And I'd just like to play that for you today. Thank you.
I think the thing about Pocket City Farms that has been the most amazing thing to be involved in, and also the most amazing thing to witness, is when you provide space for the community to come together, really positive and amazing things can happen. And it's a space where we can grow food, but the community can grow around it as well. I'm Jackie, and I'm the CEO of Pocket City Farms. This is a place where you can come, you don't have to spend any money, you can hang out with the local community in overshared activities such as learning how to farm in the city, learning how to grow things maybe on your balcony at home, and then really think about how do I do that with my community, not just on my own.
Pocket City Farms is so important because, especially in a place like Sydney, which is such a big city, it's really rare to be connected to where your food comes from. So making healthy food accessible for everyone is something I'm really passionate about.
I think it's really important to have people connected to their local ecosystems. So learning about the plants and animals that are in their ecosystem, getting their hands in the soil, learning about food production and sustainability. And I think if you can get people feeling connected to their ecosystem, that's the best way of getting them to care about what happens to it.
So Pocket City Farms is built on 3 pillars. We're really passionate about fair food. So that's food that's great for the people who grow it and great for the people who eat it and is accessible to everyone in our community. We're really passionate about education. So we want people to be able to come on site and learn about where their food comes from, how it's grown, how they can grow regeneratively, and really get their hands dirty and get hands-on with, really practical examples of how we can respond to climate change, how we can build community. And that's the 3rd pillar that we're really passionate about, is community and getting the community together. Our Team Retreats program at Pocket City Farms is all about getting adults down to the farm. And often corporate teams have got volunteering days. They might want to come and really give something back while at the same time having an experience that connects their team together.
I think health and sustainability are really essential to one another. You can't have a sustainable system if people are unhealthy in it. So investing in your people, investing in the food that they're eating, investing in the social connections that they're getting, and investing in a sustainable system that reuses resources, they're all part and parcel in one thing. Try growing something.
It can be something really tiny, like you can just grow a jar of sprouts on your windowsill if that's all the space you've got, but it is kind of magical to watch it happen. And I think it does start to connect you to the place that you live in and the ecosystem that you live in, and reminds you that you are a part of that. We're human animals and everything we do has an impact on the ecosystem that we live in. Yeah, try growing some herbs or some sprouts. I think it's a good place to start.
So I am feeling very, 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 very inspired by your work and your storytelling. So thank you much for sharing today. That was amazing. And wow, how inspirational. This is all possible, everybody. I love hearing about the solutions and the good work that's happening all around us. So thank you. Yeah, I feel connected to that. And I haven't been to the farm yet. What? What's wrong with me? Everybody around me is already going to the farm. That guy, my co-founder. It's my pleasure to welcome Louise up from Aspect Studios to share and to do a little storytelling. Some great stories. You have some amazing work that you've done. So over to you. Give her a clap, everybody.
I think I better put glasses on. Hello, yes, it's kind of interesting to see those 2 talks and to realize how important it is to have both strategy and just people who want to get their hands dirty. And all of those communities make up what we do. But for us, for me, I'm a landscape architect. I work at Aspect Studios. I'm a studio director in the Sydney studio. And we try and, my community is my studio. And so roughly from 30 to 50 of us will be working on projects. And we have a great privilege in that we can produce works across Sydney. So we feel very proud of them. I'm going to do a talk which is called The Fish, Mist and Spectacle. Partly I called it that because I thought it was an interesting collection of words. The mist and the spectacle makes sense. The fish is a little tenuous. This is the fish in the middle. So this is 3 of our recently finished projects. The Harbour Bridge Cycleway, which is a pretty controversial one, and we managed to get that through, which means that you can cycle across the harbour and get off. Fish markets, which this is opening day, and it was kind of extraordinary to see it so busy and so green. Very hard, lots of fighting to get the green in there. And the Inner West Greenway, which connects a whole bunch of communities. So there's some headlines. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to have to be quicker than this. Some other things that you might know us for, I had no idea who I was presenting to, so I didn't know if you'd know who we were or not, but I was pretty sure you'd know some of our projects. So Sydney Light Rail, the goods line, some little things, some what we love, Delight, Little Hay Street, and Kimber Lane, and Angel Place, so 3 lanes. Where am I pointing? Places you play, so new playground in Darling Harbour, the Wild Play at Centennial Park, I hope you all know that one, we're very proud of that, and a new one in Western Sydney. Places that you work or where you escape from your work, we also do. Some little play spaces, some places which are as green as we can make them, places you love to inhabit. Darling Square, one that's very close to my heart, that one, and Key Quarter. Also universities, so if you study or if your kids study, UTS and Macquarie Uni. We love water, so a lot of work along water fronts, really close to our heart. And details are super important to us. This is one of my favourite things. This is in the new playground at the Ribbon at Darling Harbour. And that's the Beaufort scale. So really it's talking about the way that wind moves and how you tell how windy it is. So it's this little scale that kids walk along that make that, and some sort of fun water features that use old heritage tiles. And then 2 projects that we're building at the moment. So this is Bradfield Central Park, so an incredible huge space. We're really excited about that. That's currently happening. And down in Canberra as well, waterfront. So you might know us from those things, but you will not know these because we've barely talked about them. But they're 2 ideas that I thought maybe if we had some ecologists and people in the audience might get kind of interesting. So this is a project, well, it's a competition actually. We do work, and we get paid for our work, and we work really hard and we get that done. And then occasionally we get lucky and interesting competitions come in, and on the side we do those. This was one of those. So it came in, and I could have done it just for the graphics because they're quite lovely and I'm a bit of a stickler for that. But in 2019 this came in. It was in Peru. Incredible brief, incredible project, massive site that really blew our minds. So this is what we did. This is the site. So it's this whole thing. An enormous site, mostly looks like barren wasteland. And down here is a great dig where they're uncovering lots of incredible treasures, archaeological treasures. And then there's a lot of development pressure. People, you can imagine it's not an incredibly wealthy area. There's a lot of pressure around the edges to move into this space, but there are still archaeological sites within here that haven't been unearthed. So the mission was to try and protect those in some way. This is what it looked like. I mean, when this came in the door, I was like, I have to do this competition. This is an insane landscape. So, you know, beautiful barren spaces, and then you can see just where the water manages to land, how green that can be. And then, I mean, it's just mind-blowing, this landscape. So this is the site. This is the archaeological dig. And then we have this kind of thing happening where you get this strange junction between green and dry, between urban and rural. And there was beautiful architecture, actually, surprisingly beautiful architecture happening, which is already existing. A lot of it was on site. Some of it was proposed as new museums, and really lovely lightweight structures as well that surrounded the digs. And there was also incredible ways that they build structures which were incredibly traditional and grounded in site. But what was really cool was that it gets 6.4 millimetres of rainfall in a year. 6.4. But it's incredibly misty. So because of a whole lot of different topological and hydrological events, there's this misty atmosphere which creates a kind of interesting light, but also gives us an opportunity to catch that mist. And these things exist. I didn't know they existed at the beginning of this competition, but I found out they existed, and I was like, hang on a minute, we can use this. So these are sheets of mesh or parallel sort of wires that catch the mist. So even though it doesn't rain, this mist is passing through these structures, and it can be caught, and it can be caught in really simple ways. You know, a little barrel at the bottom, and it's real. And that kind of blew my mind, and I was like, wow, we've got to do something with that. And then on top of that, incredible textile technologies, an incredible sort of background of really beautiful ways to weave a proper tradition, incredible flowers, incredible sort of landscape. And we look to, if we're collecting water, what is a ceremonial way to collect water? What can we do? These are all precedents that we looked at. We looked at if we have lightweight structures, what can they be? What fun things could we do in order to capture this water? And so the plan developed, and we looked at, there was a broader vision. It was about bringing a community together. So we looked at this as a plan, looking at it, different activation sites, ways to connect all those things, this idea of an evolving green story, and how we can use the wind and the sun. So we made these. So this is a cloud catcher. So the idea is we have this loop which is 5.6 kilometres that runs around the site. There's 26 cloud catchers. They celebrate local weaving in their patterning. The red beaks, this whole thing pivots, so it points towards the wind, captures as much water as possible, feeds it down into this reservoir, and then distributes it through to the landscape. We thought we don't want to pretend that this is a green forest, but we'd like to capture what we can and just distribute it gently. And then across the site, you can see these little tiny, these things are the wind catchers. That's sort of how big this site is. And then the idea that in that context, we could capture water and have areas of focus where we can support community. So sometimes it's a field, sometimes it's terraced landscapes, sometimes it's things like this. This is the museum space. So existing buildings, proposed building, an idea of connecting those two things. There's this little strange remnant wetland which survives still. It's probably not as blue as that, but maybe it could be. And then we looked at another space which was more the market district. So this was connecting to communities around here, looking at this building, 4 little wind catchers, cloud catchers, the cloud catchers again. So standing away from the site, but distributing water into this space, this collective space. This is a nursery space. This is a market space. And we looked at how can we build that in a really low-key way. So all of this is imagined to be pretty rudimentary framework to make that happen. And we imagined that space. So that was one competition. Now this is another competition, right? So, and this was done not for that reason, but again, one of those ones that are in the back drawer that you're like, oh, maybe one day. This was done because there was a competition that came out by LA+, and the competition was just to pick an island that was a particular size and do anything you want on it. And we were like, okay, well, I didn't know Spectacle Island existed at the time. We found that one, it looked good. It's this little guy, so Cockatoo Island's over here, Spectacle Island's there. It's like, good opportunity, right? Good size. And then the Albanese government decided to sell it, so that was fortuitous. And I don't suppose any politicians turned up tonight, but you never know who knows anyone. So within the context of the harbour, it is this small space, but there's an awful lot of edges in our harbour. And that seems like a big opportunity to me. So this is a really simple diagram. There are people who can describe intertidal zones much better than I can. But what I know for sure is certain species only live in very, very limited ranges. So for example, if you were any of these items and you could only live between sort of 0 and -1, for example, so within a 1 metre zone, that's where you can live. And then this wall got built and you could live here. That's fine, that's not very useful. If this wall is built on an angle, suddenly 3 lots of that can live here. It's not rocket science. Angled, you've really got to make your edges shallow. If then you take that and instead of making it flat, you give this little thing that's battling the tides, that has a moment to try and cling on, some more things to cling on to, suddenly this is a lot more useful. But then what happens is climate change, and suddenly I can't live here anymore. I need to live another metre higher than I thought. So this all came about, we were doing some work at White Bay, and it became pretty apparent that the edges of the city are challenged, and that there's great opportunity there for life. So that was what I was thinking of when I was doing this. So pre-European, the island looked a bit like this. Then the Navy came and, we got a bit of storage of explosives and things. And then, so it's sort of a lovely story of an island. Explosives, then, more buildings. 2023 decided that wasn't necessary anymore. So it's empty now, it's ready, it's ripe for us. And then this is the future vision, something quite different. World Heritage listed, a reserve, helping to produce safe water to swim in across the city. So we'd imagine these structures that had multiple levels and could do kind of your oysters and your rock pools and your seagrasses, but they're floating and they're tethered to the seabed in a way that means that they can appreciate the tide. Tide's really important here. It's not all about floating. And they become these things that are around the island. And then the idea is that they get dragged. So they're established in these safer waters, these shallower waters here. You can see it all light blue. And then they're tied to a boat and taken to other places around the city. So it was this idea that it could be a nursery that maybe really contributed to all the edges. And then, what could that be? You could have something that was multi-level, so something for scientists and ecologists, a gantry for people. Maybe you just don't let them touch the ground. Why do people have to go everywhere? They don't really. Mangrove islands, research hubs. You can rework some of the existing buildings for that. And so this is like a 4-page response to a competition brief, but I haven't really managed to let it go. So you can imagine what it could be. And then instead of what we've got now, you end up with an island which maybe is a great destination, which could be a big eco-tourism thing, which could educate people, which could pair up with universities, which could help our economy.
Thank you everybody for coming. Really bloody amazing night, amazing speakers. Thanks so much. You guys are all here donating your time. The space is donated thanks to the City of Sydney. We can't do these kind of things without spaces. Spaces matter. And just really wanted to say thank you for everyone for donating their times and their amazing stories, and we were able to capture it in a digital storytelling way. What an amazing